Celtics Postgame Show.
Wah, wah. No
It's a
longer
loss.
undefeated, Bobby.
It's a loss, and it's a night John determined ahead of time he wouldn't be here for, but I bet he's regretting it.
Oh, totally. He's punching air right now.
A rough overtime loss warranted of some John negativity. And is it panic time?
We'll find out. We'll get to the panic portion of the show. I think it's fair to wonder if time to panic.
So I watched most of this game, Jimmy, seeing the runs go against them, seeing them not playing their best, and just shrugged a little bit. It's a tough team, middle of a road trip, and the Celtics got into some weird foul trouble. The officiating was a little off in this one, I felt like, too. That got to them a little bit.
Well, don't make excuses.
But I'm not making excuses.
Minnesota's two key guys were dealing with foul trouble, too.
Right. The end of the game, and we can start in overtime, was brutal.
Start from the back.
3 back-to-back wasted possessions just led right into Edwards' jump shots. He was incredible, completely stole this game from Jason Tatum, who was great in the first half and kind of faded after halftime. Lost the ball to him, lost the jump ball to him.
Tatum had a strong fourth, I thought.
Yeah, overall, though, not what you're looking for out of the MVP leading candidate. I mean, he ends this one 12 of 22, 2 of 8 from 3, 6 turnovers.
So the turnovers were one thing. The overtime execution or lack thereof sucked from all sides. And obviously, once again, late in the fourth quarter, that one kind of slipped by them. But on offense, I won't cut you off, Bobby. Finish.
No, I just was taking a look at his stat sheet. Not what you're looking for out of him.
No, I mean, I thought Tatum did what he could in that fourth quarter when they've been going with like Tatum in the bench unit. He was doing what he could to Celtics client. Listen, this was a loss, but this wasn't a loss due to like lack of effort. I didn't feel like from the Celtics side of things. Minnesota played their asses off tonight, and this was probably their biggest win, like with that core. I would say, this is
ever.
This is like maybe. I mean, this is a statement win for this team. I mean, I think a win like this kind of puts them on the map a little bit. At least puts the NBA on notice.
Not their play-in. Remember the play-in win where who is it? Beverly jumped on the scorer's table.
Yeah, all right, that one counts. But this is one of the types. This is the type of win that you get early on in the season that gives you the type of confidence.
They destroyed the Nuggets too earlier this week or last week.
Right. So there you go. The two NBA favorites right there that you took down. So this is a team not to be messed with. They play super hard on defense. They're considered one of the best defensive teams in the league right now, defensive efficiency, and they've got guys like Anthony Edwards, who is a superstar. What's up, Josue? Speaking of superstars.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, I got you. You're my guy, dude. I got you. But the thing that was frustrating with this Celtics loss, it wasn't effort, but it was falling back into bad habits that we've seen last year. And what I mean by that is the ISO ball, the hero ball that we saw in the overtime, really. Late in the fourth quarter.
They started late in the fourth too. Yeah.
They stopped moving the ball around. Porzingis went almost non-existent, and it was like Tatum's turn and then Brown's turn.
Scal was screaming about the Porzingis stuff, wasn't he? Like get him involved.
Yeah, I was screaming about that. I was screaming about the extra passes, but then Jalen did the opposite, right? He finds Jrue down low for the layup. I said, "Oh, that's perfect."
That was a nice pass.
And then Tatum had a big play. Jalen came up with a defensive stop. So it was unfortunate, but I don't know. There was some of that hero ball for sure, but I don't know.
In overtime, it felt like.
In the overtime, yeah, that's true. In the fourth quarter.
Let's face it, a lot of the team's success so far, and I know they've done some great things in the post. They've shot well. They've gotten different guys to contribute. But a lot of their success offensively so far has come in isolation, one-on-one, winning those battles, Tatum especially. And with all the shooting success, similar to last year, and I know it's not the same story, I did wonder what would happen when the shooting came back down to earth a little bit. And you see it tonight, 28% from 3. Some of the individual efforts offensively faded. And there were some other factors in there too, but they rank in the bottom 10 of total passes so far, Jimmy. And it's something to watch. There were a few stats I was looking at going into this game. They haven't forced many turnovers. They're last in that. They did that tonight, but coming into tonight, they were last in that. The isolation has been a big part of their success so far. And as we've talked about, the bench scoring really isn't there with this team right now. And you're missing Brissett in this game. You get a little bit from Hauser, and that was pretty much it from the second unit.
That was it. And that's the unfortunate reality, I think, of the bench unit with the Celtics team. And you're going to get the occasional production from Pritchard and, Cornette every blue moon.
Cornette was
Bobby.
solid tonight.
He was,
Get to him later.
Yeah, you don't have to do that every game, Bobby, but okay.
Solid to stretch, but he played. Cornette played. He wasn't, horrible. But the point is the bench, you can't count on the bench. And that's just a reality of the situation with this season. And Celtics made their bed when they made the trades that they made and the moves that they made in the offseason. So that's just what it is right now. They were without Derrick White tonight too.
Right.
So your bench is really thin now,
Yeah.
right? Because you really can't afford one or two guys missing in most of these games.
When
right?
did Pritchard make a shot last? It's getting to be a long run for him without making a shot.
The drought is real for sure.
He's struggling. He's a problem. I don't even want to get into him right now. We'll talk about Pritchard a little bit.
Let's start with your thoughts, Josue. Where are you? Like, what stood out most to you about this one?
I just thought the fourth quarter when they started to smarten up, I felt like they had the Timberwolves on the ropes, and I just felt like it came down to the late game execution. I wasn't crazy about the Hauser play at the end, especially, but it shouldn't even have gone down to that if you ask me. I don't know. It's that tough balance of, do you call a timeout in that situation, or do you want to catch the opposing team on their heels? And I thought it might have been a better chance. It would have bettered your chances if you called that timeout, especially because of the way things were leading up to that. Yeah, you got that run, and you sort of made that mini comeback with those two big stops at the end of the fourth quarter. But I thought that was a really good opportunity for the Celtics to regroup. But going into overtime, I wasn't thinking, they're going to lose this for sure. I mean, you got to get out to a better start. And it kind of reminded me of the way they came out of halftime, right? And that was a big pattern of last year's team as well, right? Sometimes you didn't quite know what team was going to come out of halftime, and then all of a sudden they found themselves on the wrong end of 8-2 run or whatever. And I felt like that was obviously the case in overtime for the Timberwolves, where Anthony Edwards just started cooking and took advantage.
It's a good point. They went into halftime rough, and then they came out of it pretty poor. So those end and beginning
third time
of
this season
quarters.
that's happened where they come out of halftime like that, and that was a big habit of last year's team.
Yeah, because they were great to start the second quarter. I think they went up by as many as 8, and then Edwards gets going a little bit there, and some turnovers, and you basically going into halftime up 3, and then they come out of it with the Rudy alley-oop, Edwards that and one dunk. And Gobert kind of had his way with Porzingis in this one, which is probably what surprised me most. Finishing through him, overpowering him inside, on the glass, giving him some real problems. I thought Rudy was really good in this game. We're going to talk a lot about Edwards, obviously, closing the game and making big shots. But Rudy, especially with Naz Reid, who was incredible in this game, I thought, off the bench once Towns got into foul trouble. Those guys really put some pressure on Boston's interior, and you ended up with really rough nights for Porzingis. And Al Horford, who's so good in Brooklyn, I thought struggled immensely in this one. And the tough play late, catching that ball, they had a 2-for-1, and he just kind of fell out of bounds.
That's really uncharacteristic of him, though. But yeah, that didn't help. Obviously, it didn't help the case, but yeah.
He finishes this one 1 of 5 with 3 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, but a couple turnovers and 4 fouls trying to defend inside. A ton of foul calls in this game. Disjointed pace. The lineups were weird. The rotations were weird early on. I mean, you saw Mihailuk in the game.
You got an early
You saw
call.
Lamar Stevens get one stint, and then he was out of there. O'Shea Brissett didn't play in this one either. So Joe was looking for stuff.
It was a strange Joe game.
He was looking for stuff, and he really couldn't find it throughout. You had a problem with him tonight, though, Jimmy, didn't you?
I mean, well, the one thing everyone's talking about, and I had some people text me about, is he didn't call a timeout at the end of the fourth quarter. I was actually okay with that. Me too. Okay, so we agree there. I did think, and the reason why I'm fine with that is because you're already playing. You're playing one of the best defensive teams in the league. Why allow them to set up? Why allow them to get the substitutions they want?
And Jalen got a good look. He did.
He got a great look. He should have hit that shot. I mean, if you go back and watch that shot, he had put on a great move, and he had a wide open 3 at the 3-point line. It wasn't like a 35-footer or anything. He was right at the 3-point line, and he had a clear look, and it rimmed out. And so if that shot goes down, everyone's praising Joe for not calling a timeout for the same reasons we just mentioned. Right. So I'm not really upset about that. But I thought in overtime, he could have done a little bit more to maybe quell things a
So
little
where
bit.
did he
when
call the
Minnesota went on a
timeout
bit
in
of a-
overtime? That was the one I had a problem with, and I think a lot of people did because it came way too late. 114, 109. He
It was
calls
after
a
the 7-0
timeout.
After
After a
They
7-0
never
run.
scored. They didn't even. That was your final score.
Didn't cut
So,
off
I
Edwards'
mean,
run at all. And Edwards actually got another good look
No,
after
there was
getting
2
3
plays.
straight
Yeah,
shots.
it was a 9-2 run, right? And then he called it.
Yeah, because you had a couple free
Yeah,
throws in there.
How do you
and
not
then
call it after the
Tatum.
7-0 run?
he let Edwards get all the MVP chants in the building going before he even called
The
timeout.
place
I
was
mean,
rocking. And then
it was rocking. And
you know what? I have a problem
gotta be able
too.
to stop
And this
that.
has kind of been a little bit of a trend. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you come out of timeout down 5, and Hauser just kind of threw the ball away. They were
What was that?
just a non-factor play. And then to throw it back to that Horford play we mentioned at the end of the 4th, you come out of timeout setting up a 2-for-1, and Tatum's all frazzled, overthrows him a little bit, and Horford fumbles the ball, and it just turns into a turnover. And on this night where you actually force 24 turnovers, you pretty much match them with 18. So they were out of control. And Joe, he always talks about having a free-flowing offense and letting these guys kind of structure themselves. But the one time you want to see him having them look put together, if that's going to be your approach, are out of timeouts. And those 2 timeouts didn't set up anything.
Yeah,
No, they didn't.
for sure. And I wonder if he's going to figure that out, on his own, or if that's going to be something that Sam Cassell and the rest of the coaching staff is going to say, have to kind of pressure him into saying, "Hey, we got to call a timeout." That I don't want to make this a Joe Mazzulla needs to call a timeout thing, but you guys know what I mean, right? Like those end of the game plays, like he's got to have a few in the bag ready, And I feel like Mazzulla just hasn't, especially with this group, right? This regrouped roster. He hasn't had those plenty. He hasn't had many of those opportunities where he's had to, drop a crucial play with the game tied or something like that.
What was I gonna say? Oh, about Porzingis. And Bobby, you mentioned Gobert. Was Gobert taking Porzingis out of the game, or were they just not looking for Porzingis enough when they probably had more opportunities to, especially like late in the game there? I know Porzingis got he had a little bit of foul trouble there.
He had 5 fouls. Pretty early.
Foul trouble, but I mean, he was still. When he was out there, I just didn't think he was involved enough, and certainly in overtime.
No, especially because you want to pull Rudy out of the post.
Well, exactly that. So if Rudy's being that effective down low, what do you have, 14 and 12 tonight? And I think he led the team in plus minus. So of course he had an effect on tonight's game. He did get dunked on pretty damn hard by Jaylen Brown as well.
That start was great. That was probably the best part of the game for Boston.
We can't forget that. Yeah. And then Brown crossed him up pretty hard too, but couldn't hit the shot. But that being said,
Gobert slid.
Yeah, he did. Needed that shot to fall, though.
Jaylen was solid tonight, I thought. Probably your best player. Tatum had the strong start. Second half could have been better. Horford, rough night. Porzingis, rough night.
Holiday, shooting-wise, stunk.
Holiday had a rough one. And with White out, you go minus 19 with him on the floor. A key late turnover, too. He had 6 assists, 11 rebounds, and he was active and aggressive in the paint, but couldn't hit a 3. And missed a few bunnies in there, honestly, when he did get inside. So, you get a lot of praise early, and he's been a big part of their success so far. But this is one where they need a little bit more from him.
Bobby's benching him.
No, but they're missing Derrick right now. And I thought they missed him on Saturday, too. Josue actually told me before the game. He was like, they're going to miss Derrick tonight. People are going to see. And the Nets gave you similar issues in that game in terms of just kind of keeping the Celtics more on their toes, playing more erratic. And honestly, with Holiday, some good stuff in the pick and roll in this one, but you can definitely see when he's running the offense, there's still a little bit of that getting used to his teammates or just figuring out where guys' spots are, and overall just commanding the offense, because they had to go to Tatum at point quite a bit in this game, and that, I think, took him out of this one as well. We've talked a lot about how a lot of Tatum's success with the team so far this year has come away from the ball. But he was back on it tonight, logging some heavy minutes, trying to create, because Holiday didn't do the best job with it. In fact, I don't think anyone in this game did a good job setting down the offense when they needed. And to White's credit, he's probably been the best of anyone at doing that this year, whether with a good pass or a big shot.
Facts, my dog.
So maybe he'll be back Wednesday. That's when the Celtics are going to play again against these Sixers here.
I hope so. So Derrick White had his kid, right?
He was probable tonight for this one.
They showed a picture of him with his child, so very happy for Derrick White.
Yeah, congrats.
And now it's time. It's time to play in the next game. If you're Derrick White.
I don't know what happened there.
It's like that's enough, man. Why don't you go down to Philly and help these
I
guys?
have to imagine it was some travel issues, right?
He probably just didn't want to go to fucking Minnesota, man. I don't blame him.
Maybe they just gave him the night off. I don't know.
Yeah, he probably didn't want to go to Minnesota. He wanted to just hang out with his kid. I don't blame him.
We won't know. And, honestly, who cares? You should have been able to take care of this one without him. But Celtics lose. We'll get your thoughts. Jimmy's man in the chat. John's out tonight. Sherrod taking a night off as well. The two professors load managing as they should here. And we, of course, are brought to you by our great sponsor over at FanDuel. This had been an automatic if you were betting the Celtics here, money line. Not tonight.
What?
So hopefully you got your bonus bets in those first 4 games, and
you wouldn't have bet the money line on this one tonight. This Minnesota team's tough.
No, yeah. So if you haven't signed up, you're in Massachusetts, go over to FanDuel.com/Boston and get $150 in bonus bets when you make a $5 money line bet. That's their offer right now. Football going on. They're an official partner of the NFL, so still plenty of great opportunities to bet against the Patriots and get your bonus bets that way. They're going to be in Germany. I think that line's pretty close too. I saw 2 points, give or take, last time I looked at that one. So that seems like a good way to go get.
You lost to Washington. Right, it's time to fade the Patriots, regardless.
It's past time. So yeah, 21 plus President Mass, first online real money wager only, $5 pregame money line wager required. You got to win it, of course, too. So be wise with your pick here. And your bonus is issued. There's non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com and go to gamblinghelplinema.org if you need additional help. That's fanduel.com/Boston, our official sports wagering partner here at CLNS Media. We're going to talk a little bit more about the game here, a little bit of an abbreviated show tonight before I head down to Philly for the next one here. And we have some unfortunate news on the Rob Williams front we'll get to as well here out in Portland. So where should we go next, Josue? Anyone else you want to bring up out of this one?
I mean, what did I miss in the first couple minutes? What were you guys getting into?
We were blown away by Edwards, obviously. I don't know what more you could have done to contain this guy, but the isolation scoring was ridiculous. The transition runs, the passing from him was
great. They could have doubled him more, Bobby. I felt like it's another thing that Missoula didn't do until it was too late. As soon as they started to put a little bit more pressure on him, he turned it over. And then he had to find other guys on, obviously you got to find other guys at that point.
Right.
And yeah, guys like McDaniel stepped up and they hit
McDaniel hit a big night.
Yeah.
But you had Towns foul out of the game, so he wasn't in there as an option. Conley's Conley. He's not the offensive guy that he once was. Gobert's nothing on offense, really, unless he's, in the paint area. And I felt like they let Edwards do too much. And I think that's, if you're going to criticize Missoula, it's again, the same story with the timeout situation. And again, I'm not really talking about the last play of the game, but overtime, I thought got away from him. And it's not making enough adjustments on the defensive end to contain Edwards when he got hot. And you can combine those two criticisms, because he could have also called the timeout. If they weren't going to do anything to stop him on the court, then stop the game and let this guy sit it out for a second, because I thought that was when the game got out of, obviously that's when the game got to the point where it's out of reach. And everybody knew that Edwards was the hot hand in that moment. And they didn't do enough, in my opinion,
just to cool him off. Yeah.
You have an excuse on offense where you're saying we're playing for the bigger picture. We're trying to establish habits. We're trying to get these guys playing together and figuring each other out. So you don't want a heavy hand when it comes to the coaching on offense, fine. But defense, you're making those calls from the sideline, right? Double teams, traps, whatever it might be. And you didn't
when
see
they were
enough
putting
of them.
pressure, when you saw them put pressure on Minnesota, they were creating turnovers. Yeah. When they went full court, they created that turnover. They created a turnover, and typically they've had success when they've got ball pressure on. Now, again, no Derrick White, so that's one of your key guys with the ball pressure. But you can't tell me that they didn't have, they didn't have guys out there that could have doubled to get the ball out of Edwards' hands. You just can't.
No, and a missed opportunity too, Josue. He picks up a fifth foul. You line him up with Tatum, and there's plenty of time throughout the overtime period to run another play, to target him, and take advantage of what would probably be very lax defense from him trying to avoid the sixth foul or foul him out of this game. And you had a golden opportunity there and really couldn't take advantage of it. So add that to the list of offensive dysfunction down the stretch there. It was tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's something they got to figure out. But I also feel like, Missoula's going to –
Think how much they've been posting up, Josue. You couldn't get him in a post-up?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then Al's unfortunate play down the stretch too. You didn't expect that, but I mean, just going into that overtime, you kind of get the sense that it's going to come down to the wire. But then Minnesota comes out and just comes out with these haymakers, and they just never recovered.
The thing about Edwards is, and again, this is something that Joe should have stressed because this has to be in the game plan. He's an emotional player, a very emotional player. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. I would say you could call him immature in some ways out there. So you got to, when you know that he has 5 fouls, you got to play him hard. You got to be physical around him. Let him get emotional. Let him get physical back with you. Draw that extra foul and get him out of the damn game. Don't let him do whatever the hell he wants out there. And I thought that was something that the Celtics didn't focus on enough. They got Cat out of that game, and there was no reason why they couldn't have at least put a little bit more effort, be a little bit more physical. And again, not to harp on it, but bring the double team. Get him frustrated. I mean, the one thing Edwards did wrong was that heat check that, basically the fans begged him to take, and he airballed it. So he's still capable of boneheaded plays, but you have to almost egg him on a little bit to do that. And I just didn't think they did that tonight.
A commenter mentioned it here as well. A big reason you went to overtime in this game was hacking Gobert late as they did. And I think he went.
That was a bold call by Joe. I mean, I guess
that was the big one that worked out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you agree with that in the moment?
Yeah, I liked it. He did. He wasn't close all night, and he ends 2 for 11 there. So they probably could have done more of that in the fourth quarter and taken him out of the game completely if he was going to keep missing those. It certainly would have broken up some of those Minnesota possessions down the stretch where the Celtics just honestly started fouling a ton. And again, you can have some gripes with officials on ones here or there out of this one. I thought it was a weird game officiating-wise, but you got that great shot clock violation. You hack Gobert. He missed 2 free throws in the tie game, and then Brown hit a big 3, but you give it right up on the other end with McDaniel's 3. And as we talked about, just lost possessions down the stretch. A Holiday turnover. Tatum took a quick 2. You had the Horford turnover and then the Brown 3, which, again, Jimmy, we were both fine with that one. But overall, you were in a really good position to win this game, given the Towns foul trouble, given the Gobert free throw issues. I mean, how many free throws did Minnesota miss in this one? That was your big lost opportunity. 12 missed free throws.
And how many turnovers does Minnesota have tonight,
23.
Bobby? And you couldn't win that game.
That's tough. That's tough. You can make all the excuses you want in the world for the Celtics out of this one, but the Wolves handed them golden opportunity after golden opportunity here in this one, and Celtics couldn't capitalize. And this picturesque start to the season, I think, had some fragile underlying stats and other factors, I think, that made it a little less imperfect when you actually looked into it here. And now you're about to get into some tough games. Philadelphia on Wednesday, the second best net rating in the league. Brooklyn on Friday, a team that just played you tough and is going to get 3 starters back probably for that one, maybe. And then I believe Saturday's against the either Raptors or Bulls. So you're starting to ramp up a little bit here, Jimmy. The Indiana's without Halliburton's and Washington's of the world are in the rear view.
Well, you know what?
Toronto on Saturday.
Shout out Philly because they're playing pretty good basketball right now.
Really good basketball.
Right. But at least that's the back-to-back, though, those Friday, Saturday games. They're back-to-back.
Yeah. And you're going to be missing guys as we bring up the depth again. So Horford will probably sit one of those games. And Joe has talked about resting some guys over a big stretch of games here. So maybe that's why White was out tonight. Who knows? Porzingis had the opportunity to sit this one out and played through his eye style or whatever that was. But he's out there. Horford's out there. A lot of double big in this one. I don't know how you feel about that, Jimmy.
I'm not surprised.
Listen, I'm not surprised because, don't forget, they didn't have White tonight, so they have to do that more, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. But Minnesota's big. They're physical. They're long. They obviously, play really, really hard. So you need to bang with them. And so you need to be playing bigger. And so I just thought that was what the Celtics didn't do enough of tonight.
Do you have
Tip my
concerns?
hat.
Do you have concerns about Porzingis with these bigger, physical, burlier centers?
A little bit. Not that he can't, keep up with those
It's
guys.
not his game.
But sometimes he gets a little like you give him a couple
It's his
of fakes
weakness.
and he'll bite. He'll get in foul trouble. He'll
He fouled out of that Miami game.
Right, and I feel like those are the games where he gets out of whack on offense because he's stacking fouls on defense. He's checking in and out of the game. So yeah, I mean, I feel like when you see him in that type of environment where it's a Bam Adebayo or like tonight a Rudy Gobert, you don't always get the full offensive production that we've been seeing in every other game.
Yeah, I mean, did you say is it a concern? I mean, it's as you said, it's one of his weaker parts of his game, and I don't think he was brought on this team to bang down low with some of those big
And he's
guys.
going to face Embiid on Wednesday.
Gobert's a defensive reigning, multi-year defensive player of the league for a reason, So it's a tall task, no pun intended, but I think you got to play to Porzingis' strengths. You can't forget about him, And I just felt like tonight was maybe the first time where I kind of felt in a situation where they could have used him. Maybe they just didn't enough. And again, that might be a situation where Joe needs to get a little bit more vocal and not let the players do so much dictating of what goes on out there on offense.
That was definitely the case tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's reminded me of last year a little bit.
Yeah, but last year he could get away with it, right? Because it was the first couple of weeks, and he was thrusted into that position, so he was trying to get his feet wet, so to speak. But this year
he was getting criticism.
This year you can't really use that. Like, I'm still trying to adjust to the position.
No, and he won't.
Absolutely not.
I'm interested to see what he said after this game. Keep an eye out for the quotes on the Twitter log. But
Ahmed posted something. I was smiling earlier. What do you guys think about it?
What was it?
It was a quote from Mazzulla. And he used the word sick. And that made me smile.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Joe Mazzulla said he would have taken this loss much harder last year, but hopes this serves as a lesson. But he loved the competition. Quote, that was an awesome game. What a game. That was sick. Sounds like that's what he said. So I would agree. I mean, I got to tip my hat to both teams.
It was a good game.
As Sherrod likes to say, quoting Rasheed Wallace.
Both teams play hard. I was thinking that.
both teams played hard. And that was good. I mean, both teams did play damn hard. They both made the comebacks in their own right. Up, 4, down 4, up 5, down 5, whatever it was. Fought hard and went into overtime. And I mean, I got to tip my hat to Minnesota because they're an up and coming young. They're going to be a tough out. Whoever ends up with them in the first round, that's going to be a dogfight because they play hard and the fans are into it there. When Naz Reid came into the game, it felt like, it sounded like KG was coming into the game based on what it sounded like on the broadcast. They love him there. And, again, I think they still have some maturity issues maybe to get over, but Conley's a big addition to help there with the leadership. And McDaniels is one of the best, defensive guards in the league too. So they're going to be a tough team for sure. And got to give them credit.
They might have the best chance to beat Denver out west. Could Edwards challenge Tatum in this MVP race?
All right. I mean, I don't want to sound like, like Homer or whatever, because of the team he plays for and all that. I'm not trying to throw any shade towards it.
I think Edwards could certainly have an MVP.
He's had a heck of a summer / beginning of the regular season, so I'm not trying to, but it's the team, which, by the way, did you guys watch that the pregame show?
No.
They did this like prediction thing when they did like, what the Celtics record going to be, how far they're going to get in the playoffs. And this computer says it's going to come down to the Timberwolves and the Celtics in the NBA finals, and the Celtics will sweep them. So
that would be
maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if the Timberwolves
would be something,
become a top seed in the Western Conference, then yeah, Anthony Edwards for sure has a chance at MVP.
They have all the makings of it, but then you look at Towns and how he played in this one, and it's just like, they're not even going to get close if he's doing this kind of stuff. I mean, he was a no-show in this game. 7 turnovers, all the fouling.
He had like a good 5-minute spurt, though, where he
had a couple of shots in a row. But then the Celtics challenged, right, and took that potential and one off the board from him. So
and then you had Cat like chucking threes. Like, yeah, it's a mess down there.
He dropped the ball in this one big time. But Anthony Edwards, don't deny the MVP potential here, Josue.
No. I mean,
28 points a game after tonight, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 47% from three, 52% from the field. He's had a monster start.
Monster start. He's
And he stole this game.
Oh, for
going
sure.
to be a playoff team, obviously. They're going to surprise and entertain a lot of people, I think, this year. But I don't know if I just don't know if he would have to really have an unbelievable season to end up with MVP. I just don't know if he's going to get that.
I just always get the sense that Minnesota knows that this Cat and Gobert thing is a disaster.
They gave Naz Reid an extension.
They're trying to convince themselves that it's not the case, but it's like because they're in a tough spot. Like they're not their trade value. Either one of those guys don't really have high trade value. So it's like, what do you do?
I tried to give Cat the benefit of the doubt,
Me too.
but I think I'm out on Cat.
No, I'm out on Cat. That dude was on my fantasy team. I am OUT.
Yeah, I'm just out on Cat.
I've had a close
I don't know
eye on
how
this
you
dude
trade
over
him
the years.
either when he's playing like this.
He seems like he doesn't have a great attitude. Obviously, Jimmy Butler would probably agree with that. But
he came into the league so good.
Or KG would too.
Yeah, I mean,
remember the first impressions
these
of
guys
him? I mean,
who has really ever said anything glowingly about the guy? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I missed it, but I just feel like he probably should be better. And also, I'll say this: he needs to lay off the sugar. His face is looking a little chubby.
He's a little chunky.
Yeah, I think the added sugar content needs to come down a little bit. That's my take.
I had high hopes for him.
I love how Jimmy could just tell he's like, no, that's sugar. Yeah,
as he's gotten better shooting the ball, and he made that ridiculous claim too about his all-time status and that was just an eye roller.
What was that?
Yeah, it just shows
that he's the best
that just screams to me
shooter ever.
But to me, that just screams insecurity. It's like, oh, okay, you would say that. Like,
quick shout out to our sponsors here. Odds are, of course, a great compliment to FanDuel. Head over to oddsr.com/Celtics for their AI learning that gives you advice on your betting pretty much. They're not taking your bet. They are telling you what bets to make. Green means a great bet. Yellow, slow down, double think that one, but go ahead if you'd like. And red, don't do it.
You'd be shocked at how many of your bets fall into their red. I
was gonna say the way Bobby was reading that, like he's speaking from experience. Like he's like, don't get, don't get too
you need
excited.
this in your life. Especially if you're trying to do that one-time money line wager over at FanDuel, you want the green bet for that. So head over to OddsR.
You can go to OddsR, get the 30-day free trial. Use that information, get the 150 bonus bucks. It
all comes together well.
Then you win your next. Then you win another bet from FanDuel. Then you use that money and you subscribe to OddsR. You know what I mean? Like it's all, you don't have to, you don't spend a dime, right? It's everybody else's money. So that's the key there.
Shout out to OddsR. It's oddsr.com/Celtics for a 30-day free trial. Here's the news everyone's been waiting to talk about here tonight. I did a little hit on it earlier, so I'll get your guys' thoughts.
Twitch.
Robert Williams, right knee surgery in his future. They're debating options right now, but Jared Weiss reported along with Shams today that this could be a season-ending surgery for Rob out there, just games into his Trailblazers career. Just about a month removed from his trade from the Celtics. And I was saying earlier, Jimmy, imagine if he was in Boston right now and all of a sudden you're looking at season-ending surgery. It'd be an all-out panic show tonight.
I think this is what kept Brad
John
Stevens
wouldn't be on the
night.
show either. He would be dead.
I think the weekend of the trade, this is what kept him up at night because he was like, look, if this happens, I will never forgive myself for not trading for Jrue Holiday, for not pulling the trigger, So I feel like this is sort of like, I don't think Brad's smiling right now, but obviously he's like, man, like that was probably the best.
He's smiling right now.
No one's happy.
No, he's not smiling right now, Jimmy. He's
obviously that you said it, not me.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say like maybe he is.
No, I get what you mean, Josue.
He got away with one, but no, yeah. Right.
You look at this news and you say, this is why you couldn't rely on him. You feel bad. You wish it would go better for him. You could always see this coming.
Okay, along those lines, I don't think he's calling up his buddies being like, yo, you hear about Rob? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's like, it sucks because we know the potential, we've seen it. And outside of that, runs to the NBA Finals, which didn't even end the way we would have liked it, in terms of Ross production, right? But that was the best version we saw. We witnessed, last year. It was a lot of setbacks. And I think Brad Stevens, at the end of the day, made a decision that he thought was best for the team this year and its future. It wasn't just about this season. I think he looked at it as if something comes up again, I'm not going to be able to collect assets from someone like Rob, and as a GM, he has to think like that. So I think, given the pressure, right, because this wasn't something that he had a week to think about. He had to think fast in that weekend, in that 48-hour window. And I clearly, you look at this and you say he made the right decision.
So, Bobby or Josue, did you guys see the injury, like how it happened? Or?
Well, it happened 2 days ago. It happened. He left the game early. And
right. I didn't know if
he was diagnosed.
Very obvious, like the injury, you could see it and everything. But anyways, regardless.
Oh, I thought you meant if it just happened like tonight. Oh, okay.
No. I know he walked. I remember when he left the game. I just didn't know if you guys saw the play. But regardless, listen, is it sad? Yeah, of course, because drafted by the Celtics. I think every Celtics fan grew to, at least love the idea of Rob. Some of us loved Rob a lot more than others, but we all wanted to see the guy succeed. So it sucks that, he's got another knee injury. Is it a surprise? I can't say I'm surprised. And, not to sound harsh, but it's not Celtics' problem anymore. And that did have to be a thought.
You relied on him, Jimmy.
Right, exactly. You relied on a guy that was unreliable. And somebody said it, I think it was in a chat or a show, and they said he lacks kinesthetic awareness or something like that.
It was John.
John didn't say that. John. Somebody said it to John, and John said, yes, that's exactly what it is. And we were like, that's the word we were looking for. And it's true. So I don't know if that's what happened here, but it's happened over the past. Unfortunately, some guys are more likely to get injured than others, and Rob Williams has been that guy. And hopefully this is the last knee injury he ever has, and he comes back healthy. But it's for what the Celtics are trying to do right now. They need all hands on deck. And yeah, sure, Porzingis has his injury history as well, but I think you take that risk because the ceiling is higher right now with Porzingis. He can give you more. And right now you have a championship caliber team. Jrue Holiday, same deal. He's in a win now mode, and they had to do what they had to do. And now, listen, if Williams was on this team, Rob was still on this team. Oh man, Bobby, you're right. We wouldn't even be talking about this loss.
No, and you're very fortunate.
John would be on right now. John would be hosting.
You're very fortunate the Holiday opportunity came along because, number one, the Celtics weren't looking to trade Rob. Number two, you got a starting level player back for him. And number three,
bench level if you ask you, but go on.
Number three, you found a team that really liked Rob. And, in the weeks after the trade, I did hear that, Portland was looking for 3-4 first round picks worth of value here. And would they end up giving it 2? So they viewed Rob as worthy of being a first round pick value. They really, really liked him. And that worked out because you remember we debated, would you give up Al? Would you give up Rob?
Yeah.
And I said, Al's been better than Rob to this point, like year in, year out. And for all the talk about his age, has been in the lineup every night when it's not a back-to-back. So This is going to be another year where if things go smoothly, Horford performs better than Rob, simply on availability alone.
Sure. And that's you can't deny that. You absolutely cannot deny that. Al's been much more available. He's been reliable, and now he's going to be reliable off the bench, assuming they're healthy. Robert Williams is, it's all about it's Rob Stonk. It's all been about the promise, the hype, the highs, right? That Rob has, right? And with Al, you kind of know what you're going to get at this point, and he's extremely serviceable to this team and can help them win a championship. And Robert Williams, again, you couldn't rely on that availability factor. And at the end of the day, that's the biggest ability, or whatever that saying is. Best ability is availability.
You think you can get back on track, Josue?
What's up?
You think you can get back on track?
I think he can, but it's just it's another unfortunate setback. I mean, I wouldn't say he's approaching 30, but it's around the corner now, right? This isn't like a few years ago.
26.
Right. But I mean, by the time
it happens fast. Boys, it happens fast. 1 second.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jimmy. Like he ramps back up. I know Bobby's
36.
I know Bobby's looking at 26, like, oh, that's 4 years. 4 years go by fast, especially if he's to sit out for the rest of the season and rehab and do this whole thing all over again.
He's got to work hard now. He's got to work hard off the court and stay conditioned, and that's something.
And mentally, that's tough, especially if you just had that kind of injury.
And now he's
And
in a different part of the country that, maybe he doesn't have the same support system. I have no idea, but
it's a great
it's an ongoing narrative of his career, so it doesn't get any easier, obviously. And mentally, it's probably even worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
So he's got an uphill battle.
Brutal news.
I mean, the Blazers are going to be in no rush to get the guy back. They obviously are not in win mode right now. They want to see him make a full recovery. And, hopefully that'll be, I have no idea, like what, I guess they haven't really said what the time.
They haven't decided what the treatment's going to be.
Several weeks or whatever. But
the other former Celtic out there, Brogdon, not shooting well, but 18, 7, and 11 last night, running the show. Building a big lead in the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies almost fell to 0-7 in this game, by the way. They need a 24-2 run to carve out their first win. So there's your former Celtic update all in one loop.
Smart got his first win.
By the grit of their teeth late in that game. They were down 10 with like 4 minutes to go. So
really,
Rob's probably going to miss rest of the season. They're still deciding what they're going to do here, but not good news out of Portland for him if you were a fan of him or you want to continue seeing him do well out there. And obviously, we do wish him the best out there. He was exciting Celtic, a lot of potential, as Jimmy said, but this was often the result right around the corner from his big successes. Final thoughts, guys, on the game tonight.
GM of the year today.
Right.
Final thoughts, man. Time to bounce back in Philly. Send a message. Let them know which team is the best in the division, as if they don't know already. But this is the first time they're going to see this new look with the role players involved. Old friend Marcus Morris, who I'm sure
Maxey's going off right now. He's having an Anthony Edwards run of his own.
And you know what? I want to see how he does against that backcourt because it's an ongoing issue for him against the Celtics. And I don't think it's going to get much easier when you got Derrick White and Jrue Holiday now to deal with from Boston. So I'm hoping with what this team has shown us already, even though this one was a loss, I would expect a bounce back win in a big way. Maybe not a blowout win, but I would love to see them win comfortably, honestly. And especially again with these new players that are going to be cleared to play since the trade happened. I'm sure Marcus Morris is thrilled to represent his Philadelphia, born and raised Philadelphia native. So I'm sure he's going to add another threat, I feel like, in the sense of just trash talking, trying to get in people's heads. He's going to be that guy. It's kind of who he is, right? So I'm excited to see that. And obviously Celtics Sixers, to quote Joel Embiid, it's not really a rivalry, but in the old sense of
the Embiid Porzingis matchup is going to be something to watch.
I love seeing it. Yeah, for sure. And it's not preseason this time. So.
And that'll be interesting. Do they start Horford against him, put him on him? White, you have to think will be back, Jimmy, but that'll be an interesting thing to watch going into that game because Embiid could really give Porzingis some issues.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's what Embiid does. I mean, it's a tough back-to-back matchups for Porzingis.
I feel like John just created the TV. Embiid gives everyone issues.
Yeah, exactly, right. So,
I'm just talking about.
No, I know what you mean.
To see him against that kind of guy. Yeah.
But Porzingis is a big boy. Porzingis is a guy who can score from all over the court, and he has to be aggressive.
He has to give Embiid issues. It's a great point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He has to give Embiid issues and make things difficult for him. We got a quote from Tatum that we'll read to you guys before we sign off here. This is transcribed from Ahmed. So it says, Jason Tatum laughed when asked what went wrong in crunch time in the Celtics' first loss of the season. Quote, haha, yeah, just had way too many turnovers. I got to do better. We all got to do better. That was from a tweet from Jared White.
He said, haha.
He said, haha. Everyone's having a good time. We got the loss. Haha. No, listen, I mean, I guess my parting thought would be don't fall back into the habit of losing games like you did last year with the bad turnovers and the lack of execution and the no timeouts and all the stuff that we can just rewind from last year. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. But this is like that little PTSD that I get when I see something that reminds me of something that's haunted my dreams for a bit. So I don't love to see this loss. There are things about it that I'm okay with. I liked the Jaylen Brown look at the end of the game. It just rimmed out. I liked the fight from the guys to bring it into overtime, right? But at the end of the day, lack of execution down the stretch and turnovers doom them. And you could you could say that was their downfall last year too. So just fix it before Wednesday. How about that?
Definitely. And the Porzingis one's a big one. You had to involve him late, and you couldn't find a way to. And when they did, he got the free throws. So you got to fix that, especially if they do go down to the wire with the Philly team. Another tough environment, a team that's playing well, that's excited about where they're at right now, given how the season started. No more Harden distraction. As Josue said, you got all those veterans coming in from LA who are motivated, who could help guard Tatum potentially here. Yeah, good bench unit as well. And your bench unit continues to be a question here.
We didn't talk about PP. We'll have to save him for Wednesday night.
We got him in there. I mean, you go over 3 with 0 points. That's about all you're worth mentioning, a minute or two. So, abbreviate show tonight. I'm on the Philly. These guys will have your remote. We'll all be back here Wednesday
Bucket
night.
hat Bobby in Philly.
Maybe we should talk to some fans.
Oh, man.
The Philly fans are
careful out there, man.
than the Knicks fans.
I don't have security. I was ready to jump in when Josue was in trouble. I won't have the same luxury.
Yo, Bobby, you was putting the camera away.
Bobby was about to run, dude.
Get out of here.
All right, that's our show tonight.
Nah,
Shout out to
FanDuel.
FanDuel.com/Boston as well as oddsr.com for a free month of them over there. Thank you to them. Thanks to Amit, as always, on production here. John will be back Wednesday, I assume. Sherrod as well. And we will talk to you then. It's been the Garden Report. Celtics lose for the first time this year in Minnesota. Now 4-1 this season. Talk to you soon.
No, they're not 4-1. They're better than
5-1?
5-1.
5-1.
6-1.
Maybe after Wednesday.
Are they 6-1 or 5-1?
They're 5-1.
They're 5-1.
5-1. All right.
I thought you were joking.
We're all wrong. That's what you tuned in for.
No, I've been saying this since the beginning. 5-1.